Now, following these heavy floods in KZN, at least 400 people have been declared dead. These floods are wreaking havoc because people are forced to live in disaster-prone areas. That's the word from UKZN Professor Hope Magidimisha-Chipungu. Let's discuss this with the Prof. Now, Prof, good afternoon. Thank you very much for your time. I guess with the mushrooming and the growth of informal settlements that we've seen as urbanization is rapidly accelerating in parts of South Africa, also parts of the region, of course. Some people might say this was inevitable, or some people will blame local government for lack of planning.
It's very easy to come up with different perceptions around what could have happened and what could have done better. But suffice to say, you're right, people are being forced to live in those environmental sensitive areas because of their circumstances, because of their income. And I think we need to start thinking about what needs to be done, and what comes in mind immediately is to actually find the land strategically located to house the urban poor. You will see most of the people who are staying in urban areas, the ones who were experiencing flood, especially in the low-income areas, are staying in informal settlements or areas which are not designated for residential purposes. So the amount of land that we have within the strategically located land is actually in the hands of the private sectors, and there's some discussion to be had there to say how do we then release the land strategically located so then we can assist. As it is, government does not have that particular land in most instances, and that land is in the hands of the private sectors. People who are actually interested in building their own houses. What they need is land, so we need to actually provide that space. On the other hand, we are talking about we need to start implementing our policies that we have in place, and the one which comes to mind here is the people's housing policy, and this is community driven, where we also involve the communities to able to assist us in building their own residential areas. Also, we also need to start investing around the satellite cities, and these are the cities that at least are meant to assist the mega cities or your metros, where you find that everyone wants to go to the metros. And that's where we need to start investing on, and make sure that at least we share the pressures. Instead of everyone wanting to be in the mega city or in the metros, they will be able to go to the satellite cities and able to get some functions there, including all the resources that they may need for their own daily life and functionality.
Is there enough land? I'm just asking this against the background of the slow progress of land reform generally in South Africa today, but particularly in urban areas, because the urbanization is very rapid.
Yes, you're right. It's a contested issue whether there's enough land. The question is who owns the land. If you look at the report from the rural development, where they were trying to map out the land available within the urban environment, which is strategically located, you'll find that most of the land is in the hands of the private sectors. Of course, it's not all urban areas which does have land, but we're saying the land which is there, what do we do with it, and how do we negotiate in a meaningful way without actually compromising the economy to make sure that we house our people. But in the event where we are not able to accommodate people within the cities because we do not have land, we are saying, as planners, we say, let's invest in satellite cities. People should not move in urban areas because they're disparate, or should not move in bigger area or cities because they're disparate. They should come because maybe they want to come and visit their families, but not to disparate to a level where they don't even have a place to live and they have to find themselves in shacks. So this is happening because we've overinvested in urban areas, and we've sent very wrong signals to say mega cities, that's where everything happens. But if you look at it and how cities are originated, you will realize we started with nothing to be where we are. So we can build every piece of land to become a mega city if we want to do that. And we have the capacity. We've demonstrated that through our metros.
You know, as you're talking there, I'm thinking of what Musi Maimane, the leader of One SA movement, told my colleague in Cape Town. He was speaking to Ronald Masinda earlier when he was visiting the Langa informal settlement, Prof, which caught fire at the weekend. Now we've got more than 1,000 people who are homeless because their shacks have been burned down. He was saying there should be a renewed focus on what he termed rural development to enable people not to think just by coming to a city you get a better life. You can create a better life elsewhere.
Exactly, and this is what I'm very big on, and I'm advocating for that, to say inclusive cities that we need to talk about and design on a daily basis. They're not just necessarily mean we have to be in the CBD. And if you look at the statistics, you will realize that we're talking about 57% of the world population being in urban areas, and of that 57%, just 2% of the land surface, that's where those people are residing. What is happening with the 98% of the land? So we do have land in the periphery, we do have spaces in the periphery, but it's underdeveloped. And I think that this notion that we have to invest in urban areas, put mega infrastructure, but in so doing, we are putting a lot of pressure on ourselves. And also the idea of cities not working closely with other cities. Cities by nature, if you look at the literature, they're very competitive. It's like, I want to be the best city in South Africa, I want to be the best city in whichever year. But if you look at it closely, you realize that wanting to be the best city, it's okay, but that comes up with the consequences, because everyone wants to go to the best city. Yeah. But how about we start thinking being a collaborative cities and make sure that everyone is living in a good space and a livable area.
Thank you very much, Professor Hope Magidimisha-Chipungu, for your thoughts there about what are possible solutions in terms of dealing with the pressure on current urban cities.